The Democratic Party here in the state of Florida is alive and well.
It's been a lot, of course, like reminders of sort of what happened, but also just like the sheer amount of it is pretty emotional as well.
I mean, there's a fear that he's not just blowing smoke. What he's talking about is something serious.
From the fourth floor of the Capitol Rotunda, you're listening to WFSU Public Media's Capitol Report, the podcast. I'm Tom Flanagan.
Funding for Capitol Report is provided by the following. HR Florida State Council, affiliate of the Society of Human Resource Management, advocating for the workplace on behalf of 16,000 human resource professionals and 6,300 Florida employers. HR Florida State Council. More at hrflorida.org.
This is Capitol Report, the podcast. I'm Tom Flanagan. Among today's top stories, Florida's new Senate Democratic leader, Lori Berman, had her first press availability today. Tristan Wood reports she was voted into the position after former minority leader Jason Pizzo dramatically left the party last week.
Pizzo announced he was switching his party affiliation to NPA on the Senate floor last week, saying the Democratic Party is dead. Berman pushed back against that framing.
You know, we in the Democratic Party understand that losing ground isn't the same as giving up, and it's a call to action. And I want everyone to know that the Democratic Party here in the state of Florida is alive and well.
She says she wants to be a unifying force in the party and was disappointed with Pizzo's actions.
I can't believe with 1 week left of session, we had this huge disruption. But I will say I am moving on, and that's what I think we in the Democratic Party need to do.
House Democratic leader Fentress Driscoll had strong words about Pizzo's actions.
In his speech on the floor, which is he said that there are people here who want to help fix the party, but they just don't want it to be him. And I think that he was in a frame of mind that if he couldn't be the one carrying the ball and leading it all, then he was going to take his ball and go home. And that's not really a team, is it? If the only position you're willing to play is the one that you think you should play, and rather than try to see where you fit in and understand that and help to carry the team.
Florida Senate Democrats are at their lowest caucus numbers in 2 decades, with only 10 members. I'm Tristan Wood.
The Trump administration's immigration crackdown now includes tougher rules for Canadian visitors. Anyone staying in the U.S. for more than 30 days must register with the government or face penalties. Combined with new tariffs on Canadian goods, Florida may start to feel less welcoming to tourists traveling from the north. On the Florida Roundup, WUSF's Matthew Petty recently spoke with Tim Harper, former staff writer and current contributor to the Toronto Star. He says more Canadians are choosing to stay home.
You decided to skip out on spring training this year, and I imagine for a baseball fan, especially a fan of the Jays, that beautiful little stadium down there in Dunedin, that must have been a pretty tough call. Why did you decide to stay home in Toronto?
It turned into a pretty easy call. We go down there every year. It's been about 10 years. We actually stay in Largo. We go there for spring training. We've been to Tampa Bay Lightning hockey games. We were there in St. Pete's for the opener of the Rays last year. So this is a regular gig that we do. But with the election of Donald Trump and the disrespect he was showing this country, the 51st state, calling our former Prime Minister Trudeau, Governor Trudeau, the tariff threats that turned into tariff reality, the continual misrepresentation of trade stats between the two countries, his misrepresentation of how much fentanyl is coming across the border. It just, as a Canadian, there's an individual Canadian, very few things you can do. You can buy Canadian, which much of the country is, or you can refuse to spend your hard-earned tourism dollars in a country that's showing you such disrespect. And I should point out that the final straw probably came when your Governor DeSantis chirped Canada about mocking the boycott by citing 2024 tourism stats and saying that doesn't sound like much of a boycott. But of course, that was before Donald Trump came in and started threatening annexation of my country.
Tim, what are you hearing from other Canadians who like to visit the United States like you typically do in a spring?
Well, they're staying here. I don't know anybody who's in my circle who's traveling to the United States except when they have to for business or if they have family. But You've seen the statistics as well as I have. Travel between Canada and the US, at least by land, is down 32% in March.
Hmm.
So, we made the decision, the group that I was part of, that is being taken, it seems, throughout the country.
You've written before, Tim, during the first Trump administration about Canada's relationship with the United States and kind of about how Canadians see themselves too. What would you say is different now compared to, say, 2016 or 2017?
The Trump presidency has somehow galvanized this country into a show of patriotism that you don't often experience in this country. Being told that your country need not exist and you'd be better off as a state was quite a catalyst for what's called here an elbows up movement to fight back and protect your country and your sovereignty. And there are fewer guardrails around Donald Trump in his second term as well. So, there's a fear that he's not just blowing smoke. What he's talking about is something serious. So,
I wanted to just ask real quick, if I could, about the elbows up movement. I know folks who watched SNL a while back would have seen that. That
was
Mike Myers. Is that a hockey thing?
Yeah, it's a hockey thing, and let's play into the Canadian cliche, but it means that when you're playing tough, you go into the corner with your elbows up, and it was like a secret code to everybody up here watching. It's been adopted by everyone.
I wonder how you see this resolving, Tim. You think you'll be back watching your Blue Jays at TD Ballpark next spring?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Matthew. It was a brutal winter here. We wanted to go.
Yeah.
We took a political stand, but man, we wanted somehow to find a reason to go. I don't know when I'm going to next go back to the U.S. I lived in the U.S. for 6 years. I traveled extensively throughout the country. I just don't know when I'm going to feel comfortable going back.
That was Tim Harper, former staff writer and current contributor to the Toronto Star, speaking with WUSF's Matthew Petty. After the shooting at Florida State University earlier this month left 2 dead and 6 injured, staff, students, and members of the community built makeshift memorials, piling bouquets of flowers, candles, and notes around campus. Now, as Regan McCarthy reports, the university is beginning to clean those memorials up with the goal of collecting, cataloging, and preserving the items.
Not far from the Student Union building, a near constant stream of university employees and students are walking, arms loaded with items from the nearby memorials. They're carrying them to a row of folding tables where the items are sorted.
Thousands of flower bouquets, hundreds of objects and candles, hundreds of notes and cards.
Katie McCormick is the Associate Dean for Special Collections and Archives for university libraries. She's overseeing the documentation, collection, and preservation of the memorials. The majority of the bouquets will be composted, with a plan that the compost could be used for future memorial plantings by the university. Some of the flowers will be kept and dried. Still living plants will be planted or distributed. And then there are the items.
The hats, teddy bears, framed poems, pictures, candles in glass containers, anything with a message. The archives team are here packing those materials into archival boxes.
McCormick says her team will then review those items to ensure nothing has been damaged or is in need of further preservation work. Then they'll be inventoried, and eventually a catalog of the objects will be posted online. McCormick had just arrived on campus the day of the shooting. She says she heard shots ringing out and saw students running. She made her way to the library to help. She's been focused on helping ever since, and says she hasn't yet taken time to reflect.
I'm not ready to sit with these notes yet myself, but I'm grateful that they're going to be there when it's time. And it's, for me personally, an important aspect to be able to bring my professional skills and experience and to help my team and others bring their skills to contribute to the healing of the community. And that's a step in my own healing in this process.
McCormick hopes it's healing for the others involved as well, like sophomore Elle Placencia, who's part of the group helping to clear items from the memorials.
I've walked through a couple times. I've looked at stuff, but I think it's a lot more to be holding it, and then being you pick up what other people have put down to then make sure that it stays preserved, and that we kind of have this record of all the work that people did, all the love that people put into the memorial. So it's been a lot, of course, reminders of sort of what happened, but also just the sheer amount of it is pretty emotional as well.
Some students have expressed concerns that the cleanup and preservation process is starting too soon. But Placencia, who contributed flowers to one of the memorials, says she's glad this effort is underway now, before items are damaged or lost.
I don't know if just getting rid of sort of the material stuff really sweeps it away. I think it's going to be in people's hearts for a long time, and especially being able to preserve it. It's changing location, and it's not going to be how it was, but I know they've gotten a lot of photographs and stuff like that, so it's going to be different, but I still think it's equally as important to make sure it stays preserved, even if it's not exactly where or in the arrangement it was.
Placencia was in her dorm room when the shooting happened. She and her friends were safe, but even so, she says being on campus now feels emotional.
But it's gotten easier, little by little. I think it's still, a lot of times I have to kind of stop and reflect a little bit. But I walked by the Union for the first time only a couple days ago, and that was pretty heavy.
University officials say they recognize members of the FSU community are just in the beginning stages of their healing process, and that everyone heals at their own pace. I'm Regan McCarthy.
Finally tonight, hundreds of law enforcement officers from across Florida gathered in Tallahassee today, remembering 8 of their colleagues who died in the line of duty in 2024, along with 1 canine and 11 officers who died years ago. During an hour-long ceremony, bagpipes played Amazing Grace, while survivors placed roses on a flower-covered memorial honoring their loved ones. Florida Attorney General James Uthmire thanked the loved ones of those killed, saying they'll always be a part of the greater law enforcement family.
This is more than just a tradition. It is more than just a ceremony. This is a promise that we all make here together, that we will never forget.
Today's ceremony was the 43rd annual event honoring fallen officers. 1 law enforcement officer has died in Florida this year. Walton County Sheriff's Deputy William May was killed earlier this month while responding to a disturbance in Defuniak Springs. Over the years, more than 800 police officers in Florida have died while on the job. Our regular Capitol Report correspondents are Gina Jordan, Regan McCarthy, Margie Menzel, and Tristan Wood. Thanks also to Matthew Petty. Shows are available Monday through Thursday by 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, wherever you get your podcasts. On many of these Florida public radio stations, you can tune in each Friday to catch the latest on all things happening at the Capitol. That show is also available in podcast form. Technical assistance comes from Taylor Cox, and I'm Tom Flanagan. This is Capitol Report, the podcast from WFSU Public Media.
Funding for Capitol Report is provided by the following: HR Florida State Council, affiliate of the Society of Human Resource Management, advocating for the workplace on behalf of 16,000 human resource professionals and 6,300 Florida employers. HR Florida State Council. More at hrflorida.org. Capitol Report is a production of WFSU Public Media in Tallahassee.